now.
Something here is calling us forward, upward motion with drops in one ocean. Roll on.
Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice
And boldly say,
we are the ones we've been waiting for. Live the dream of your highest calling. Be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together, sharing this with the world that's waiting for a change that.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. This is the second month in our series of the AGNT Members Forum, which is a special broadcast for members only. It's one of the more enticing benefits of AGNT. We have this monthly online leadership forum, which is always led and facilitated by AGNT leaders. Sometimes they'll bring guests from within and beyond the New Thought movement. So here you'll be able to come and receive mentoring on a wide variety of topics and engage personally with AGNT leaders in question and answer sessions, live dialogue, breakout groups. That's something that we'll introduce a little bit in the future. This is a chance for you to suggest topics for mentoring and discussion that will serve and enhance your personal journey as well as your professional and organizational pursuits. AGNT leaders on these forums will also share with you their inspiration, challenges, their creative solutions, networking opportunities, and invaluable insights with regard to life, your ministry, and social engagement. So we're totally blessed and mutually blessed to enjoy these monthly mentoring sessions with these leading voices. Leaders will come from Unity, Centers for Spiritual Living, Agape, major New Thought organizations, actually bringing collectively hundreds of years of experience to the table. So this is an opportunity for you and the teams of people you work with, practitioners, teachers, individual members to gain great experience in an intimate setting. So we're going to start with an opening invocation by Temple Hayes. And what I would like first to do is introduce you to her. And sometimes serving as my co-host for these gatherings is Stephen Pope. And I'm going to ask Stephen if he would introduce Temple for us.
That would involve me having the script.
Sorry. I'm going to introduce Temple for us. Temple Hayes is a valued member of the AGNT Leadership Council. She is CEO of the First Unity Spiritual Campus, a New Thought center in St. Petersburg, Florida. She is a successful radio host on Unity FM with her show, The Intentional Spirit, Seeing and Being. She is author of The Right to Be You and How to Speak Unity by Divorce Publishing, and her latest book, When Did You Die? 8 Steps to Stop Dying Every Day and Start Waking Up, is an Amazon bestseller. Temple is also the founder of Global Peace Workers, a 501c3 which focuses on peace through people. She is on the Advisory Council for Global Action Coalition, which is dedicated to bringing change to our world. She also founded Life Rights, a 501c3 dedicated to education, teaching, and supporting the awareness of valuing life in all living things and creating a world that is longing for peace. Temple was recognized for Life Rights on Capitol Hill at the People of Distinction Humanitarian Awards in September of 2016. And there's much more to say about her. She's my dear personal friend and a really, really valuable colleague. We're so glad and honored to have her with us tonight. So Temple, could you give us an opening invocation just so that we can start out right?
Did. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Barbara. You are amazing and all that you do for us in AGNT. So let us come together in that space of awareness where we feel the presence, for there is only one presence and one power in the universe, and it is coming through to all of us right now through the medium we know as computer, but more a channel that we call spirit that immediately connects each and every one of us. We allow this time to unfold with a sense of openness. We ask for the eyes to see and the ears to hear, that the words will be communicative in such a way that it touches all, and that we will learn together and have this experience. We recognize the value of all of us here right now, and we allow this time to unfold in peace and joy and in love, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Temple. So, I think since we generally have a small group of attendees live on this call, and many more people who then look at the recording after, which of course, in that case, they lose the value of being able to interact with you live in real time and have a real dialogue. And so I think that what we should do is introduce the attendees who are on the call tonight, so that we just see who's here in the room. So that's what I'm doing now with everyone's permission. And Thacker, would you like to just say hello?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad I made this one. I missed the first one, but hopefully I won't miss the rest. So,
we're
happy
glad
to
you're
be
here. We're glad you're here, Anne.
Thank you.
And what organization are you from and where are you located?
I'm located in Lakewood, Colorado. I was associated with Mile High Church until I became a minister, and now I have founded my own 501c3 called Life Playhouse, which is for the purpose of helping people move through change and challenges in their lives through intentional play. And we teach science of mind principle, but they don't know it's science of mind.
Perfect.
Thanks, Anne. Anne, you know what? I think it might be okay, but if I happen to press the wrong button, it's giving me a strange set of choices here. Will you be able to just hook back into us?
Yes.
Okay, let me give it a try and see if it works. Oh, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. This is an odd situation. I'd also like to introduce Mansour Vakili, who's a friend of mine. We've worked together. Mansour, you want to say hi and let us know? Here you are. Where you're from?
Oh.
Hello.
Mansour.
Mansour Akili.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very good.
I'm Barbara, and I'm really proud to be able to work with Barbara for a while. We've been working in the same project together. And I'm so glad to be in this field. And I'm from Southern California. I mean, originally I'm from Iran. And now I live in Orange County, Southern California. So I'm really happy to be part of this process that you guys are going through and I'm going through. And I believe I have a lot to share with you guys at the same time, that I can learn a lot from you guys.
Thanks, Mansour. We'll talk to you again in a little bit. Oh, this is what I should have done the first time. Okay. And Martha, Creek Martha, of course, has been part of our community for a long, long time. And I'm going to promote Martha to a panelist to introduce herself now. Takes just a minute. Okay. Hi, Martha.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Let me get rid of, I can get rid of the glasses. You can see my eyes maybe. And I can see you, albeit a little blurry.
Oh.
And I've got a lot of gratitude for being a part of any kind of organization that represents what we do and makes a possibility that we make in the world. So I remember discovering it, and you're right, I've been a part of it since that time, and I'm back to basics this year. One of my practices is to return to my own roots and to back to basics, and what meant the most to me 20 years ago when I first kind of took the high dive into this. And I'm very committed to this and very appreciative, of course, of what you're offering here, you, Barbara, and as a director of an organization like this, and particularly for decades, and you, Temple, and what you've been able to do, pioneering and operating a little less traditionally than some, and taking bold and daring moves in many, many arenas. And I bow to you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Martha.
I feel the same about you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk to everyone in a little while, but let's talk to Temple for a little while. Temple, do you want to just sort of take off and free associate some of the things that are important to you these days, what you're seeing, give us the benefit of some perspective of what's really grabbing hold of your attention, and especially with you live in a state where a lot of interesting things happen. Maybe that seems to affect your worldview too. So why don't you just open up and share with us a little bit about that?
Well, I think for me as a leader, I always feel that part of the responsibility, if you will, and in my own humanity, that when things are going around, I'm very clear with my inner mission that I don't want to allow breaking news to break me. And what I mean by that is, I think that more than ever before, people are looking for leaders in AGNT. They're looking for leaders like Martha and the work that she's doing, and Monsoon, and all of you. And people are looking to us, and this is an important time that they can see within the looks on our faces that we are still optimistic, and that we are clear that we are experiencing a lot of chaos around us, but that we are more optimistic than ever. And I truly feel that way. I'm not needing to put on a show or to put on airs about it. I really do feel we are at a place of a brand new heart opening and awakening for our country and for our world. I know that many years ago, Toni Morrison told Oprah that it's important when we look at children, that children see that we have a love of life and a zest and a vibrancy, and that we believe in a greater ideal and the principles that we talk about. That's how I feel it's important to us when we are exchanging information. I think the growth in all of us and the maturity is that we can live in both and. In other words, we're not denying that things aren't going on. I mean, as those of you tuning in know, that on the other side of Florida, on the East Coast, we have, Parkland, and this senseless tragedy of murdering all these children and staff members. So we're not denying, or, we're talking about it, and it's up for conversation. But on the other hand, these kind of things are leading us to immense change, and there are so many people that are taking a stand now, and really ultimately that's what we've been wanting and what we've been teaching for a long time. I remember 10-15 years ago, I was craving to connect with people that were actually taking a stand for something, not just being comfortable, not just being cliche or in platitudes. And that's when I ran into Dr. Barbara, the mover and shaker, of let's go. We're on the peace train. And it changed my life. It really did. And it changed my ministry, being affiliated with AGNT, I was already doing it, but it was through that association that it's like it gave me that inner permission to be bold and more daring and more brave. So for me, when people encounter the campus or the activities that we're doing, more than anything, back to Dr. Ernest Holmes, I want them to really feel the presence of life, this tremendous vibratory field that is reassuring, energizing. It's kind of like, you know, the elephants coming back to their stomping grounds. I definitely know that they won't ever come and hear me talk about that I'm weary and I don't know what to do. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's one of the things I remember how, well, when we were at the Parliament of the World's Religions in Salt Lake City, and we did for the first time a relatively major discussion, a presentation in a room that was, you know, very well attended and maybe more so than we were even expecting at the time. And I remember how important it was to me personally, and we had discussed it when I was visiting you in St. Petersburg, that your view of a spiritual stewardship for the environment came from a deep-seated reverence for all of life, all sentient beings, that there was no sense in having environmental policies if they weren't grounded in the most deeply contemplative, compassionate, spiritual principles that caused us from the inside out to understand the value of our animals, the value of our trees, the value of life and earth as a living organism. And I remember pushing you a little bit to be the one on our panel who spoke about that, because I felt that you had the most intrinsic feel and experience for that kind of topic. And I guess I'm saying this in the way of affirming how your work has always been grounded in your spiritual principle, but you're one of the ministers that I honor because you don't think it's quite enough to have a vision or articulate the importance and the value of these ideas without somehow walking the talk and putting, you know, finding a place where the rubber actually hits the road. So I really wanted to honor you for that, and wondered if we should ask a couple of our attendees if they might want to make comment on that here before you go on. Do any of our attendees want to jump into the conversation briefly, because we'll keep it fast moving so Temple can go on with what she had to say? You can let me know that if you want to jump in by just raising your hand. Okay, I'm going to put Mansoor back on the screen. There you are. Hi, Mansoor.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about, at least get to the issue that she mentioned about the what's going on right now around the world and how chaotic it is, and how within that chaotic events we see the hope, and we can see that we are going to transformation to the higher level of conscious and the participation that unite us with the earth and the whole universe. If we go back a little bit to explain that this universe and earth is a living system, all the living systems, they perform at the edge of chaos, in the chaotic zone, to become fractal and self-organizing. So that shows that this era, digital era, is a transformation era, and we are getting to evolve to the higher level of conscious and understanding. And all the information is already there, because we already have enough science of system theory, network theory, and all this to explain how this living system behaves. And there is a bigger picture network that is playing us. And the quality of this living system is that it can make the most complicated actions or performance through a minimum effort. Like right now, as a living system, I'm talking, which is a very complex process. 4 million neurons that step between you and I transfer to take only one word from my mind to your mind without any effort. And the whole system is doing like that. But since we are participating linearly in it, with linear mind, we are not aware of it. But as soon as we know how the nonlinear living system behaves, we do have that information, and practice and think and act according to those principles, which they are universal, then everything is there. And there is a bigger picture that's playing us that unfortunately in the modern world, we have ignored that and we think we are alone, we are the only doing it. So I think the problem that we have is just relationship problem. We are living in the nonlinear world that is becoming, especially the digital world, that is becoming, it is a self-organizing process, and is a higher conscious that is governing it, but we are participating linearly in it, and that's the only problem we have. As soon as we become aware of that and practice and act through our body network first, and through any network that we are participating with those values and universal behaviors, then everything is perfect. And we're going to go through this chaotic process very smoothly, and we're all going to evolve. And I believe that what happened, this universe, can I talk more, or I'm talking too much?
Well, I think that we'll talk to you again during the program, but I want to keep it moving now because others, especially Temple, might have some comment on what you've said so far. So, this is good. I was hoping we would have a conversation. Temple, I'm going to throw it back to you, knowing Mansoor is a brilliant thinker and scientist and systems theorist. And I think when he speaks about our linear behavior in minister terms, in spiritual terms, he's referring to the nonlinear world that we think of with words like sacred and spirit and universe and eternal. So I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, what was going into your mind as Mansoor was talking.
Well, first of all, I was just loving the richness and the depth of his wisdom and his intelligence. And I agree, of course, with, and find myself in that space with everything that he was saying. I have been really excited about all of the people taking a stance, and I have loved seeing the young people participate and really taking a claim with, this is my world, this is my universe, and I'm going to participate in it. And I think that that's part of what you were alluding to earlier, that we can all stand and we can make wonderful lectures and we can be great orators, but it's deeper than that. It's a showing, it's a sharing, it's expressing. We just adopted 222 animals at our campus. We just celebrated 222 animals, and we have a huge bird sanctuary. And it's these kind of things that really engage the children. And I would be interested in hearing, what Anne and Martha and Monsoon, what you think about this. I mean, one of the things that I feel is that we have gotten away from children spending enough time outside and outdoors. And we used to teach them about the bugs, the insects, the animals, and they had a reverence for being outside and being connected to the earth and those kind of things. And now we put them in front of, a little box or an iPad or a Kindle. And I know that's exciting too. And we are developing other aspects of them, but we have trained them so much to respond to this, that though there's a level of connection, there's a missing of that everyday sacredness and reverence of being on the earth and realizing that we are born out of Mother Earth, as Alan Watts would say, and we will return to her. So I'm just curious of who wants to take that one.
Yeah, a friend of ours that we know, Ronaldo Brutico, he was talking about this the other day, and he said that the high-tech society can be more of a curse than a blessing if it doesn't go along with a high-touch aspect. High touch, high tech. So yes, we can talk about that more. And before we ask for a comment, when I see that Anne is ready to jump in, we've been joined by a couple more members. And I'm going to ask Kathy Scott and then Teresha. You can let me know how you pronounce your name when I ask you to come briefly and just introduce yourself on the screen. Tell us who you are, where you're from, if you represent an organization, so we have a feeling that you're in the conversation with us. I think I'm going to go ahead and ask Kathy to come and talk to us first. I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. It takes a minute for the system to catch up. Oh, I think maybe I scared her away altogether. Teresha, will you come and introduce yourself? Oh, here's Kathy now. Okay, good. We're just having a lag time in the platform here. Kathy, can you try unmuting yourself on the screen, because I'm trying on my end and it's not working. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a minute here. And Teresha? Okay, there you are. Teresha, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're calling in from?
Sure. It's pronounced Teresha, and you are doing wonderfully with it. Because most people have difficulty with it, I'm known by Trish, which is probably what you remember. I'm in the Washington, D.C. Metro, and I'm spiritual teacher leader for Center for Spiritual Living Metro, which serves the Washington, D.C. metro area. Part of our congregation is from the far side of the metro in Maryland, and in the district, as well as in Northern Virginia. And what else do you want to know?
Oh, that's good. I just wanted us to all meet you, since this is an intimate group and it's meant to be that way. So we'll talk. Well, I'll just put you back and bring you out later again. That's the beauty of this platform. We'll be back to you later. And Kathy, I'm trying to unmute you one more time, and if it doesn't work, then I'll stop bugging you about it and we'll move on and take Anne's comment. Okay, it's possible that something going on with your mic, but let's see. Okay, Anne, you had something to say here in response to what Temple was talking about, so why don't you come back with us and share?
This is nice. Yes, I love what you say about the children and about connecting to the earth and to each other with touch, with being able to be together, which is the reason I founded Life Playhouse, because we don't use electronics other than for videos. And we have play shops that are with horses, they're outside. We have play shops that are inside, where you use painting, or where you have to talk with your body. You're not allowed to use your mouth, things like that. And it's for all ages. We've had from 7 to 77 in our play shops. And so I love that. And the other piece I want to say about AGNT particularly is I've had difficulty, how do I want to say, combining what I think our teaching teaches with activism. Because Life Playhouse is designed to move people to their own inner wisdom. It's not designed to teach them anything, to tell them anything, to say that something is better than something else. And I believe that's what we in Science of Mind believe and teach ourselves, is that each of us has our own inner wisdom. We each know what's right for us, what's right for the world, and we just need to awaken to that. And so our roles, at least in my mind, are to support people in awakening to who they really are, in awakening to the truth that's within them so that their actions can be congruent with who they are. And I love that about Agent. I love that about Temple and what you're doing, because you do have the rubber meet the road in your 501c3s and with what you're doing. And all of us do. Barbara, certainly, in what she's been doing for years. She's had the rubber meet the road for a long, long time. And that's why I really love this organization, because I feel like we are creating a new world rather than criticizing the one that exists today. And I think that is so important, because resistance just creates more of what we have. And I love the creativity. I love what you all are doing. I hope that in my own small way, I can serve alongside of you in a way that works.
Well, you've already been doing that since the moment you joined. In fact, Anne was the first organizational member to join the new AGNT last year. And we struck up a conversation and had a Zoom call because I wanted to meet the person who worked so fast to become the first organizational member of the new AGNT. So thank you so much, Anne. And your work is fascinating as well. And we'll get into that as these sessions go on. So I'm going to throw it back to Temple now, because I'm sure she's been generating some thoughts.
Yeah, I love your enthusiasm, Anne, and I love what you're doing with your work, and you're doing a mighty work already. It's, it's how we self-measure sometime, but it sounds to me that you're doing so many phenomenal things because you're showing, you're showing change and you're fully expressing it. And I was thinking about how I feel grateful, in my own evolution of ministry that I finally got it. It's like one day I just got it, like, ooh, a big, thunderbolt lightning. It's like, oh, my ministry is, I'm supposed to be doing the things that I really love that are actually meaningful and a lot of fun for me, not what I learned that, I followed in school or what my teacher before me did. And I did that, what was the norm? Well, this is what everybody else does. You put together your Sunday program and you have your music and, you throw in a little meditation and that kind of thing. But I realized that with that way, I would have, I would have grown old very quickly. And that I wanted to really bring in the elements of what I love, dancing and joy and chanting and enthusiasm and a celebratory thing. And I think that's the biggest part of it with people that are leading, is to be clear, what is it that you really want to exemplify? And I love what you said about that. I'm not really here to tell somebody, what to go do or teach them a certain thing, just to remind them of that, of what it means to be, somewhat awake in a world that's always changing around us. So anyway, I just love that we have the freedom in Association of Global New Thought, as well as in the Science of Mind, the CSL and the Unity Centers, is that we're really here to live our dreams out loud and be fortunate enough to have people that want to play along with us.
Temple, I have a question that's been on our minds. Yesterday we did a phenomenal experiment that went very well, considering it was the first time out the gate. And we had a lot of technical challenges and personnel challenges, but it it was an attempt to bring New Thought centers from all over the country together in a synchronized online event. And our intention was to actually look at a topic, the topic of white privilege and racism in America. All of the 24 centers around the country had local screenings, followed by a local dialogue on the topic of the film. And then the ministers all came online together and shared what they had learned. Oh, you know what? We finally got Kathy to unmute, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself, and then I'll go on with my question.
Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. But anyway, you wanted me to introduce myself?
Yes, please just let us know who you are, where you're calling in from. You know, just briefly let us know who's joining us.
First of all, I have to say I am just so blessed, just feeling so blessed to be a part of this conversation and part of this movement. And I live in Long Beach. I am a practitioner with Seal Beach Centers for Spiritual Living, and really looking forward to finding out more about the global New Thought movement. And what got me here, Barbara, was the conversation about the divine feminine. So that's what I'm really, really interested in. So I'm looking forward to our meeting next week.
Thank you, Kathy. I've seen your name on several of our webinars and have really appreciated your presence. We start to create a field. That's why we do this online, live, for those people who want to be part of that field. And our guest next week is Mrs. Ila Gandhi, who, bless her heart, is going to be calling in, Zooming in from South Africa at 3 a.m. her time. She promised me she'd take a little nap before she came on, but that conversation about divine feminine leadership in the world today is an important one, so thanks for recognizing that. Okay, so Temple, I was in the process of asking you the question that, having engaged spiritual communities in very specific issues of activism, is a little bit problematic for some of the congregations. Most New Thought congregations tend to be more liberal, I would say, than conservative, but that's not always the case. It's by the nature of our teaching that I think people are attracted to New Thought who also embrace the values of inclusion and interdependence and compassion and justice for all. And I'm not saying that conservative thinkers don't also share these good values, but they sometimes manifest in policy and legislation a little differently. Issues of gun control, for example. So when you're in Florida, which is a diverse area by its nature, you know, you can look at the map of red and blue and you can see that it's not as plain blue or plain red as other places in the country. And I've been to your congregation and I think you reflect that diversity. So can you tell us a little bit about what do you face in bringing issues of activism into your congregation when people don't always necessarily agree with each other on every single issue?
Well, I think that the key is all in the presentation from the leader of a community, you know. So I've always been one to express that there's comfortability and there's learning from differences of opinions. I'm not really here, you know, to convince somebody for one bottom line or one specific answer. What I like to do is probe people enough. I love to hear what people believe, but I'm much more interested in hearing what they believe if they've tested it and they've explored other things. You know, like when somebody says, well, I only belong to unity and I believe in unity and I've been doing it for 42 years. And I go, well, what other things have you explored? you know, because when you come back around after you've expanded and explored, you know, other modalities and other teachings, and then you go, I believe in unity because of, and then it makes a lot more sense. So for me, always wanted to be part of a community, a campus that exposed people to a lot of different things. And I think that in one way, that is the reason we have challenges, because it's when we say we want gun control or better laws, immediately people start defending, well, some people need a gun. You know, we look at things in extremes, where when we're able to look at things in both and, somewhere in the middle, that gray is often, you know, a better answer. And so when we do panels on racism, we've done many different panels to discuss issues with education, problems with, you know, the energy with women and equality. And our community finds those topics extremely rich. And even people that, I've had people come to many of those events and say, I don't know that I even feel like there's an issue here, whatever it is. But as sure as they get involved, they discover new things about themselves. And so there's a willingness. I think that everybody on the collective, back to what Monsoon was saying, there's something stirring within everybody that is wanting to see something, even if they don't know what that is.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. I wonder, Mansoor, we've talked a little bit about this. I know I have to laugh a little bit because I like Mansoor, and we're both kind of geeks. You know, we like to have that conversation about linear, nonlinear, quantum mechanics, and network systems theory, and so on. And I'm constantly required to bring it right back down to earth because I'm dealing with people who are asking me for very concrete materials and so on. But what Mansoor is looking at is very interesting, because we've had a conversation about how the theory of of our current digital age and networking systems and the way that the living universe actually functions has some very interesting implications for how, for example, do we transform our political system. And Mansoor, without going into too much detail, would you mind coming back on and just talking to us a little bit about science and spirituality and politics specifically? Oops, let's see, let's try that again. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a lag time on this system today, and some of that has to do with the bandwidth connection. Okay, there's Mansoor.
Yes, I would like to first share some ideas about what Temple brought out about the young people to get involved. Yesterday that I was able to watch some of that program that you had, if you take average of those people that they are participating, it's over 60, or I don't know exactly, but around 60. So we need to question why we have that type of people and young people are not there. And by try to answer that question, maybe we find out the better ways of communication and better and new stuff that we need to bring to be able to attract those people. So that's one thing that I saw. And second thing, that as far as the young generation, especially the issue of Florida, not only we need to deal with this gun issue, as far as those guns that they can kill so many people in a second, which they are guns of the war actually, rather than in a city using it. Second problem that somehow I didn't see even the media is putting attention to it. It's those games that we are feeding to the kids, that they are getting to the somehow all kind of stimulating their brain with that type of violence that is producing some kind of proteins that they are getting addicted to it. And then they are trying to bring that in reality. That's part of the game that's happening too, unfortunately, because that industry, it's easy to, because of our linear mind again, it's easy to attract us through the violence and negative events. They are using that, and rather than come out with all kind of potential that we have to bring the creativity and games that stimulates your creativity rather than just puts you in the stress of violence. That's another issue that I think we need to address in the society, to be able to somehow use this technologies to stimulate the brain in a positive way, to get addicted to those kind of hormones rather than get addicted to the violence hormones in our brain. And then you want to have it more, and then you're going to have more and more violence, and then practically you are doing it. That's one issue that has been really missing in the whole media, and nobody is putting attention to it. Even though we need to emphasize on the weapon, the guns basically, and try to resolve that issue, that we don't need that type of gun, and we have to go through. I'm sorry I talked, I guess, so much that do I have chance to talk about the issue that you brought up, or the question that you had, or?
Yeah, do you think that you can do that pretty quickly, because we're getting toward the end of the program now?
One of the things that I guess we all, I'm just trying to bring it a little bit deeper conversation as far as the how all the spiritual traditions believe that we are made of as an image of God. If we are a living system, then divine is a living system too. And if a spiritual movement puts attention to that and understand that there is so much deep science right now that they can, by going from divine, living divine, and how it behaves, it would be so attractive to the young generation and to bring a lot of people, especially at this age of digital age that we are going through this transformation. It will bring more deeper conversation and attract a lot of young people that their right side brain already has been stimulated with all these gadgets. So that's another thing that I think is missing within the spiritual movement, that they are not putting attention to that part of divine, living divine, which is consistent with all the wisdom tradition of the Mayans and Africans and all those. And at the same time, even within that three religion, they believe that we are from image of divine, and if we are a living system, is a living system too. If we go through that type of conversation, then we are joining the science and spirituality together too, because science now, current science, is providing enough information that this is a living system, and is giving us a very simple guidelines and relationship that how could we behave, that we can behave, be unified with the earth and the whole system. So that's another issue I wanted to just bring out, that maybe we need to put attention to that part, especially for the bringing the young generation, and also participate in the digital world that is a transformation time and is a very chaotic, and our linear mind has a tendency to put us only on the negative part and discussion of those negative part rather than all the potentials that we are seeing and they're coming.
Well, that is very much in the teachings of New Thought. And, it's, I don't know how many young people would be interested to grasp this kind of conversation in the abstract. They want to put their hands around something, around an action, around a purpose. That's how we were when we were young too, but in a different age. But that's good food for thought. I'm gonna, I see that Trish has her hand raised, so I'm gonna put her on the screen before we ask Temple to come back and share some of her concluding remarks with us. So Trish, I'm gonna put you back on screen.
was
Okay.
talking about, I believe, is the obligation of our centers in terms. Are you seeing me or the ceiling?
Oh, no, I can see you.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure. I was trying to angle this around because somehow the view of the ceiling isn't, I hope, quite as interesting as me. I believe that our centers have an obligation to make sure that we are the bridges that can embrace the science and the technology and the spirituality. When I put my hand up, it was because we had kind of danced right past what Anne was saying about the need for movement, the need for body, the need for nature and that involvement. And part of what's different now is when kids were playing outdoors, they were venting a lot, they were expressing and expelling a whole lot of that energy. And when they're sitting with a video game or a lot of other things, they don't have a way to get rid of it. And what I should be more explicit, the adrenaline surge that happens can be dispelled by two primary methods. One is drink a whole lot of water so that your system is diluted and the toxic aspect of adrenaline is taken out of your body. And the other is to run, fight or flight. Okay, if kids ran and played, they expelled it. Now they don't know to drink enough water to flush their system. And they're sitting there with the stimulants that are right smack in their face that are churning out all of that adrenaline. So that's kind of on the cause side of things. Here, of course, in the DC Metro, we have marches for all occasions. And the good thing is it's outdoor and it's, it gets them out in the sunshine and it does that. I mean, the response in the local aspect, okay, the permit that the March for Our Lives has applied for is 500,000 people. From those of us who are in the immediate area and working with youth and families and school systems and things like that, we figure they have underestimated probably by about 50%.
Wow.
Because people will turn out on this. And that kind of brings me to the how do you deal with a congregation that has divergent opinions? And I have found that mostly their divergent opinions are about the solution. Most of them will embrace a shared need. And when it comes to children being hurt, most of mine who have really opposing views, and sometimes I wonder how we did that, but anyway, we have some who are on either extreme, but they can come together when they can see a common purpose. Their method for how to deal with it is where we get sticky.
Yeah, that does. It makes perfect sense. And I wonder, Temple, can we take a brief comment from Anne and then come back to wrap up? That's good with you? Okay, great. No, thanks, Trish. We're raising more questions than answers, but that to me means that we're on the right path. I'm going to promote Anne to panelists now.
That I love what Mansour said and Teresia said, but I don't entirely see it the same way, especially about children wanting to participate in the divine or needing to understand that they are in essence the divine, because I did a lot of research for my ministry, and 65% of all the people that live in Colorado are not churched. They're unchurched. And they don't want anything to do with God or spirit or religion. And so I agree totally that that's what they need. But I think when it's presented in a non-spiritual, non-religious way, they accept it so much more readily. They're so much more willing to look within, to learn the principles. When you talk about a principle of creative nature that doesn't have any God in it, people are willing to talk about that they have a creative nature. Sure, I have a creative nature, but if you say, well, that's divine, then you lose them. And so that's the only point that I wanted to make, that I think sometimes that's a way to lead them in.
This is a perfect one for Temple to take on and lead us out of the session tonight. So I'm gonna put you back on, Temple. Go ahead.
And I'm just grateful that you're willing to think outside of the box and to look for other ways to express, because ultimately we know it's all part of creation, and it's all part of that creative process. I love these conversations. They're rich. I love listening to each of you, and we're very grateful that you've come on board with our program. And I would invite you to invite some of your friends, or invite some people that you think have some opposing concepts to come on the calls too. The next one, Barbara, is March the 26th. Is that when the next one is?
Yeah, the next one is March 26th, and Reverend Dr. David Goldberg will be with us, who's an ordained religious science minister and the publisher and editor of Science of Mind magazine. And it might be interesting, Temple, you're more than welcome to come back, join the conversation with David too. It might be interesting because their 80,000 subscriber list to the magazine deals with as many so-called secular readers as so-called spiritual leaders. And so they've been walking that line for a long time and finding how important it is to find the right language to reach the right audience, and to listen, and to present diversity.
Absolutely.
So we're right up at the edge of our program, and I always like to ask you as our guest tonight, Temple, if you can just take a deep breath and look inside for a minute and ask yourself, what's the thing that I most wanted to communicate tonight that I haven't quite brought out yet? Could be anything.
I just what a pleasure and a privilege it is for all of us to be life advocates, and to be taking a stand for that very thing, and everything we do say, or that we don't say, but that it's seen.
I love that. And thank you so much. Thanks to all of our members who joined us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of you.
And thank you, Temple. And once again, we'll see you all back here on March 26th with Dr. David Goldberg. And hopefully keep in touch with our AGNT communications in the meantime, because we've got a lot on our plate these days, and we need your help. We not only want your help, we need your help. So stay.
That's right.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks, Temple. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.